Okay, so thanks, Alex, as I said, and Textbroker for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with a long-time partner and great provider and collaborator with all the content teams that I have been working on. And yeah, today I would like to share a little bit how I'm still doing SEO in 2021 because with COVID and everything, it has been quite a year in 2020, and we had to change a bit how we work. And moving to remote was a bit of a challenge with some of our teams, but the main pillars remain the same. So I would like to share a bit how we are approaching SEO at Adevinta today. Okay, so first of all, my name is Esteve Castells. I'm an SEO based in Barcelona, and sunny Barcelona. Well, not so sunny today, I have to say. And I specialize in international, technical, and strategic SEO. I work for well-known brands in Europe in general, Latin America, and Africa. And the main purpose of my work is to help companies grow their organic search presence. Adevinta, the company that I'm working for at the moment, is an international family of local digital brands. It operates brands, especially classifieds marketplaces, in more than 16 countries, and it operates famous brands in Spain like Mil Anuncios, Fotocasa, or others, in France like Le Bon Coin, or others in other European countries. Also, recently, Adevinta acquired eBay Classifieds Group, so the classifieds division of eBay, which contains eBay Kleinanzeigen and other European classified players. So it's a very exciting journey at the very moment, and we're looking forward to seeing what's next. But let's try to focus on what matters. So 2020, as I was mentioning, was quite a year. It brought a lot of chaos to the Adevinta business. And this is mainly because we're an internet company, but we're an internet company that facilitates local transactions. So at the end, in the Adevinta businesses, you might end up trying to meet another new car that you want to buy, or maybe buying an iPhone from someone else, or finding your next home or your new job. And to do all this, in general, you need to go somewhere physically to finish. We are just a platform that facilitates the transactions, but we are not part of the direct transaction. So as a result, the financials were hit during the first quarters of the 2020, especially after it recovered, as we will see. And the same happened with visits and leads for the main countries. So as people couldn't go out, we had quite a lot of issues engaging people back into our marketplaces. We were lucky, and after the initial confinements and lockdowns, we are doing fairly well in terms of traffic because people went back with even more strength than before. As you can see here, it's true that we had quite a lot of decrease, but then people really wanted to buy things and to change homes. People started to look for homes with garden, homes with terrace, homes with swimming pool, and finding new jobs, of course. But that part probably is the most affected. So it's not that we can offer a lot, unfortunately. And also new cars. And one of the curiosities of new cars is that as people wouldn't want to use public transportation anymore because of COVID and the fear of catching the virus, many cheap cars were sold during the last year. That had an increase of over 100% year on year. We had some learnings about the COVID pandemic. I think COVID taught everyone quite a lot of things. It was, in many ways, one of the worst disasters in the decade, probably, and maybe even in the century. But at the same time, it brought us lots of learnings, and we evolved quite a lot in many areas that probably it would have taken 5 to 10 years to evolve. So the first learning, and the most obvious one, is that shit happens and you cannot stop it. You cannot really stop these things from happening, so you need to adapt. And this is interesting because at the start of the pandemic, you kind of have this you basically try to think that you can change the behavior of the users, you can engage them back into the website and things like this. But that's not real. You really can't change user behavior from a trend point of view. You can do tactical things, but nothing major. And we had to wait, as our colleagues from the travel industry, they are waiting, from users to go back to traveling. So you are not able to change everything that you want. The next thing that we learned is that marketing budgets are the easy cut for businesses. So it's true that many businesses are thriving more than before. Let's say internet companies like e-commerce or specific entertainment companies or things like this. But the reality is that in most companies that I know, marketing budget was cut. And especially in Spain, where we had quite a rough situation with the economic handling of the pandemic, marketing budgets were cut like to zero in most companies, or to very little. So when this happens, organic is king. And that brought a lot of attention to SEO. I imagine that for many of you that happened as well. But when people notice that, okay, I don't have anything in terms of marketing, I don't have any budget to do any marketing, then probably the best I can do is to work on getting a strong organic search presence, working on my word of mouth and referrals, and working on a big content marketing strategy. So all this is very cool, but you cannot really build this in just like overnight, that doesn't happen. And for us, luckily, we were well positioned to capture all this attention and bring it live. The reality is that our focus in terms of SEO in the SEO teams at Adevinta remain the same, remain to achieve the long-term objectives of improving our internal linking, which we know that it's really the key in big websites to index everything and to have authority where it matters, reaching all the long tail searches. So what we try to understand is where is our potential. And what we found out is that really our potential is mostly in long tail searches, meaning that in head tail searches, Google is showing a lot of things, ads, local packs, Google Shopping, many things like modules that they create specifically for that. So we are not really able to attack those queries and gather a lot of traffic. In the meanwhile, in the long tail of search, there is not that many users that are arriving there. And fortunately, we can get there and get a lot of traffic and qualitative traffic specifically. And finally, crawling and index optimization. The reality is that the average website of Adevinta has about 10 million pages. So 10 million pages is quite a lot. And if you don't work on your crawling and index optimization, you are screwed. Our teams had quite a rough year. Fortunately for me, I was very familiar with remote work because in my former company, I used to do remote every now and then, and I used to work with all my teams remotely on a daily basis because they were divided into several countries. But the reality is that for many people, it was not that easy. So we boosted a lot the community and understanding by community. First of all, the Slack channel that we have for SEO across the company, which moved from 90 members in 2019 to 250 after January this year. So it's quite a lot of growth. And as well, we worked on doing a SEO gathering remote edition. So this basically means having an event as fancy as this one that we are having today, all of us gathered by Textbroker, but only for Adevintans. So we had 102 attendants from 12 countries via streaming. And that was also a very enriching experience to share knowledge among all the countries and all the people in the company. Then we also did 11 bi-weekly calls during the year so that people would stay connected to the company and to SEO and to everything that we did, because what we didn't really want is people to leave the company because they felt disconnected to their day-to-days, or they didn't feel that they were a priority or that they were not taken care of. And finally, we did also some webinars during confinement, so that during confinement, such a tough period, we could all be together and have a good time speaking about some SEO topics, but as well, just, sharing how we feel, what are our plans, what are we doing to pass the confinements, etc., because it was a really tough situation for many of our people. Unfortunately, these great meetings that we had back in the days are not happening anymore, and that is something that we will all miss. But yeah, we hope that someday soon we can meet again and continue working on the global SEO strategy at Adevinta someday in person, but in the meanwhile, we're doing it remotely. So we have currently three main pillars of what I would like to talk today. So the first pillar is the SEO and SEM blended strategy. I will talk about how we are working to craft a global SEO and SEM strategy so that basically we are not really throwing money away. As I told you, we have very small marketing budgets for this year and especially for last year. So what we want to do is make sure that every euro that we invest, or every reais in Brazil, is something that we invest properly. The other example that I would like to show you is how we are leveraging machine learning to build our internal links as a production solution that we're using already in 4 marketplaces. And finally, how some of our teams have invented an SEO A/B testing strategy that has gone live and that it's the developing very great results for the marketplaces. Okay, so I will start with SEO and SEM blended strategy. And I would like to introduce you to the concept of incrementality. So when you want to understand if your paid search is effective, you can look at many things. You can be looking at how many conversions am I getting, what is the cost per click, what is the cost per objective that I want to achieve, let's say purchase or other kinds of things. Or in the root level, like very basic, prior to all of this, you want to understand if there is any cannibalization between paid and SEO. And what we wanted to test is this and see what is the impact. So the impact that we found is that specifically in some of our brand searches or in some of the non-branded ones, there is a lot of cannibalization between our SEO rankings and our PPC efforts. In this case, you can see in the chart 3 main colors. The PPC CTR is the CTR over the clicks over the total impressions that a keyword has. So basically, how much we are bidding from a paid perspective and how many clicks we are getting. The SEO CTR is the number of clicks divided into the total impressions of that keyword. So it's basically how much SEO performance we are getting. And the total CTR is both combined. So what you can see here is that in general, except maybe a small percentage that could be around 2 to 3%, most of the bidding that we do is not incremental. What does it mean? That we could take the PPC CTR and bid for all the keywords a lot, but it wouldn't be bringing any extra traffic. So this is a big issue because if you are doing this on a scale, you are throwing hundreds of thousands of euros a year. So what we developed is a methodology to understand when this is happening and what can we do to solve it in a way that we are not throwing money anymore and that all our PPC investments are very fruitful and they all add incrementality and not cannibalization to SEO. That has saved Adevinta so far more than 400,000 euros a year. So it's quite a lot of money. As you can see, this happens across many keywords, especially brand keywords, but not only. Also for non-brand keywords, this is happening, especially if you have position 1 in those keywords. And yeah, this is what we see, that in most cases, the CTR of what you are bidding is not incremental. So you are basically throwing money. And I highly recommend you to take a look at these slides that I'm giving you in the notes, because it's from another event that I participated on, and it tells the way of how we are attacking this issue. The other thing that we worked a lot during last year was deploying a machine learning solution for internal links. So what does that mean? First of all, I would like to give a shout out and mention to Hamlet. Hamlet Batista is an SEO that passed away, unfortunately, recently, and he was the inspiration of this solution. He was a very well-known person in the SEO industry, and we really miss you, Hamlet, and thank you for all your contributions. So the main point of what we wanted to do is clustering terms by semantic affinity. What does that mean? That basically, let's say that you have something like a glass and a mug. So at the end, those two terms are quite related. So for internal link purposes, you would like to associate that a computer and a monitor are something quite similar as well. The reality is that even though it looks like everything should be very easy, it's not that easy to know that a computer and a monitor are two very related things. So what we did was leveraging a machine learning solution called Word2Vec. It's an open source algorithm that was developed and it's actually used by Google, probably in their own systems for doing several things. And we are able to cluster words so that we can know how close they are to each other. And this is basically done via representation of terms in 3 dimensions. So the words are translated into vectors, and the vectors are compared between each other. And you can calculate the distance between one vector and the other, and at the end you will be able to find out how close the terms are to each other, and using Word2Vec you are able to see these kind of relations. And after you have this data, you can basically build internal links so that they fit with your criteria. So I will give you a brief example. let's say that I have a footer module where I want to have several links that are related to the page. So let's imagine that we have a list of items that are PS3 for sale. You can buy it in the marketplace, and you want to link to other things. So what you will be doing here is trying to find other relevant things. But how do you know that a Nintendo is related to a PS3? We know that because we are humans, but algorithms, they need to be trained to learn those things. So thanks to the new tool that we built, we are able to relate that a PS3 is similar to things like a GameCube, a Nintendo, an Xbox, or other PlayStation consoles. And the output is quite great because it gives relevant terms at scale. And this is another example. So as you can imagine, it's quite easy to know that fish tank is related to fish because it contains the same word. But how do you know that another way of saying a fish tank could be to say that you have an aquarium at home? So this is what the model learned by reading all the Wikipedia articles. So basically what this tool does is it can either read Wikipedia and understand relations between words, or you can even train your own algorithm with your own data. Why? I will give you an example. If you use Wikipedia to train an algorithm, for example, if you ask for the term Java, you could be tackling something like Java, the programming language, or you could be tackling Java, the island in Indonesia. So you cannot really trust Wikipedia because it's so broad. In comparison, if you train your own algorithm with your data related to programming stuff, you will make sure that you get relevant recommendations. And thanks to tools that Google has built, like TensorFlow or others, it's quite easy to train this if you have some engineering background. The final thing that I would like to comment into the three main pillars of what we have been doing at Adevinta is SEO A/B testing. So the difference between SEO A/B testing and normal testing, and this is quite funny because I'm talking about SEO A/B testing and Ricardo will be talking about CRO in the next chart. So basically, the main difference between one and the other is that SEO A/B testing tackles bots, search engine bots, while CRO impacts users. So that is very different because when you do SEO A/B testing, you need pages to stay the same. You cannot show now one version of a page and in the next hit another version. Pages need to be split in control and variant. In the meanwhile, in CRO, you don't care about that. Actually, it's good that it's completely random in every hit. And then basically, this is an issue for SEO because you cannot be showing one thing to Google now and in 1 minute something different because Google will be like, what are you telling me? So we have been focusing on doing A/B testing at scale. And basically what we do is deploying small tests across our website to changing things like titles, meta descriptions, H1 tags, adding content in the footer of the pages, adding FAQ modules with also content in there, adding internal links and other things. And the results are quite good. I have to say that not all tests are positive. When you are testing, you need to have an approach of learning and having some mindset of, okay, I can be wrong, I can be trying things, but they don't work, and you need to iterate a lot. But basically, SEO A/B testing gives you a very consistent way of growing, because you are 100% sure that what you are deploying is at least not bad. It's not bad for your website. And this is, let's say, 3 fancy topics that we have covered. But we also do very basic things like working on our clusters of keywords. So I will give you 2 examples of how we developed a topical authority in one of our countries for the Sell My Car and Car Valuation Tool cluster of keywords. So this was an untitled vertical for one of the Adevinta businesses. It's not a portal that it's in English, so I translated the terms and everything so that it can make sense to everyone. But basically, let's say that we had one main page for Sell My Car page. So this page wants to rank for terms like sell my car, I want to sell my car, how can I sell my car online, blah, blah, blah. And another tool that wants to rank for car valuation tool in Google. So people that want to know how much is their car valued, no? And then we will build satellites for long tail, like modifications of selling my car plus location. So selling my car in Barcelona, in Madrid, in any location that is relevant, or selling my car plus brand, selling my Audi, selling my BMW, selling my Mercedes. And for car valuation plus location as well. So trying to add more long tail variations into our strategy will strengthen all the entire cluster of keywords. And finally, we need to build a content ecosystem, build how-tos, add legal information on how to sell a car, how you change the name of the car legally, tips on how to do it, news around whatever changes in the process of doing that, and other relevant information. Because at the end, it's not an easy process, so you need to be really pragmatic about how you help user and try to do it the best way. So this was the situation at the start. We had topic 1, which could be sell my car, and we had one main landing page, which was not optimized. It was really bad, really bad. It didn't have a good title, it didn't have H1, didn't have anything. And then we had another page that actually cannibalized so much, which had the same title, the same internal links, and everything in between. That was not really good, because you don't want 2 pages that are equally good competing for each other. And then on topic 2, we had one main landing page, only one, but it was not optimized, and neither it was responsive. It was a legacy page that was basically not really optimized at all. It was not even responsive. Okay, and to end up that, we didn't have any content ecosystem. So we didn't have any information around how you sell a car. Users then went to other websites to find this information, etc., etc. So this is really bad. Like in 2021, you need to help users end to end. You cannot just be like, okay, I'm gonna let you upload your advertisement that you are selling a car in my marketplace, and I'm not gonna help you in the whole process. You need to do everything. So what we did was the following things. We wanted to build the main landing page and the satellite pages, as I was commenting in the introduction, and of course optimized and responsive. And for topic 2, the same thing. And what we also want is that actually we have a great content ecosystem in here so that users can find everything. But not just that, you want all these pages to link between each other and the whole ecosystem of content links to each other. At the end of the day, this is the only way where you can build topical authority. It was a successful year. We have done projects like this quite a lot during the year, and we have been able to surpass some competitors, or in other websites gather quite a lot of traffic. So this is great. When you get good results, you can ask for more resources to do things. But at the end, it's a lot of work that you need to do in terms of evangelization inside the company, project management, etc. And building a content strategy and all this is not easy. So you probably need to rely on partners to get the content, like Textbroker. You need to work with your tech teams to get operations done in terms of changes in the page and everything in between. So it's quite a lot of work, but it pays off. So the pillars of any SEO strategy for highly competitive terms for us are the following. First, very optimized on-page SEO and internal linking. Internal linking is so important in big websites that if you are not doing it, you have such a quick win to do, because really just the fact of having the links, no matter if they are really semantically relevant or not, it's just so important. Then amazing content to answer user intent and its journey. If you have great content in your web page, basically you will be able to answer everything that users have as doubts, and you can keep pushing a good experience for them. Have a full ecosystem to build topical authority. Basically, I believe a lot on this concept of ecosystems of content, so that everything is interconnected and you build topical authority. So what I found is that these days having one page about a topic is not enough, because if someone has a big cluster of information and build topical authority about a specific topic, then you will not really rank very well for those terms, even if you are Wikipedia. It doesn't really matter. So at the end of the day, what you aspire to have is building a good ecosystem of content, very interconnected, adding great value for the user, and this will help you boost your authority. And of course, if you can as well, boost popularity. So we know that Google doesn't like link building, and link building is quite annoying to manage, to be honest, but you really need links to rank. If you're a popular brand, then you might have this half done, but good links are always welcome. And specifically in areas where you are not an expert, you might need to develop that, even if you have millions of links in other parts of the website. Topical authority, for me, is one of the keys of SEO these days, building this topical relevance and authority in the cluster of keywords that you want to rank, and being the authoritative person in this area. And not only that, avoiding complexity. You need to avoid complexity from a Google perspective, so keeping your pages simple, adding value, but simple, not having millions of pages that are worthless. And also from a point of view of your own day-to-day work, you need to avoid complexity in your projects and keeping things simple, because we are all quite exhausted after COVID years, and I think doing less is more if what you do is the right thing. So the last thing I wanted to comment is that I created this brand called Atomic Partners, where I do some consulting and other things. So if you have big challenges, you can reach me out and we can see what we can do. I also run a newsletter called SEOpathia, SEOpathy. So it would be like the disease of liking SEO. The only thing is that it's only available in Spanish, unfortunately. And yeah, that's all for now. I'm looking forward to some questions. And thank you for your time. Hope that you liked the topics, and questions are welcome.